Brewers week in review. Been a couple weeks. I am sorry to both of the people who are going to watch this. Um, okay, quick recap of what we missed not doing a video last week. Brewers swept Pittsburgh. Looked great against Skeens. They're like the only team that's really gotten to him this year. So that's great. It's a good sign for the postseason if... let me adjust that. Great sign for the postseason if you're seeing elite pitching and you're getting to it. Great. Almost swept Cincinnati. Won those first two games in comeback fashion, which another great sign for the postseason. When the Brewers are down, they're never out. You can be down 7-1 in the second inning and just fire back. Great series. Great job from William Contreras. In that series, he's stayed hot mostly. Then you lose 3-5 to Chicago. Great win in game one. Peralta looked amazing. You get the first game postponed. Day two of that series, so you're playing a doubleheader. The next day, you lose both. It's tough not to split doubleheaders. Not that big of a deal. There's still 2 games left in the series, so you got time to get right. Then you lose the next day. 3 losses in a row. Not sure when the last time the Brewers went through that was. That was tough, especially against Chicago, because the last thing you want to do is give somebody hope in the division. The Brewers getting a top seed and getting out of the wild card round that has really been their biggest holdup the last couple of years, I think is maybe bigger for them than it is for any other team. I just think that the boost that they would get from not having to play in that 3-game series that they've lost in the last 2 years. They missed the postseason in 22, and they lost them to the Braves in the DS in 21. But you lost to the Mets in pretty crushing fashion last year. You got kind of run off the field by Arizona the year before. They need to keep a top seed in these playoffs. They need to win the division, and they need to win it convincingly. I mean, that's maybe unfair pressure to put on a team, and especially a team that's played so well for so long now, but I don't think that there's another team, especially in the National League, that needs to skip the wild card round more than Milwaukee. So it's tough losing 3 in a row to Chicago. You salvaged Game 5. Cubs could have won the 5th game of that series and then been 5 back in the division. That's still a solid lead, but they were up 9 games going into that series. And you almost cut your lead in half if you lose Game 5. So great win to sort of salvage the series there. You win the ends, the bread games as some people call it, but the Cubs took 3 in the middle. And that's not ideal, but the Brewers had won, just an absurd amount of games leading into that series, so you can kind of let it slide. Now actually getting into this week towards the end of that Cubs series and going into the San Francisco series. It's not much of a red flag because a lot of what I just said about the Cubs series still rings true. The Brewers have been playing so well for so long. You lose a series to the Cubs, but now you lose a series to San Francisco back-to-back, and it's like there was going to be some regression, especially after you see that Cincinnati series and the Brewers are just coming back. They're getting clutch hit after clutch hit. Anytime the offense needs to show up, they were showing up. Bryce Terang had 8 homers in August coming into this week, which is not his game at all. And it just kind of felt like, not that the wheels were going to fall off, but that level of production just wasn't going to last forever. It was never going to, but it sucks to see it kind of come all at once. You lose 3-5 to the Cubs, and then you have kind of a struggling Giants team at home, and you kind of think, all right, this is a get-right series for us. The Cubs are starting to threaten to make up ground. Kyle Tucker started hitting again this week, and, The Cubs, I think since May, have had the second best record in the National League. Like the Cubs have not fallen off. The Brewers creating so much of a lead in the division has been solely based on how good Milwaukee has been. It has had nothing to do with shortcomings from the Cubs. So, oh, there's my cat. Um, so the Cubs picking things up, Kyle Tucker getting back on track while the Brewers are kind of taking a step back, especially offensively, is mildly concerning just because, I was here in 22 when we traded away Hader, lost the clubhouse, and the team fell apart. And I've been here the last 2 years when the Brewers just haven't gotten hot at the right time. The bats have fallen asleep going into the postseason, and, another promising year has turned into an early exit. And when you have these early exits in the postseason for the Brewers, even though they've been able to recover from it the next year every season, it always feels like the end of some kind of era. 2 years ago it was we lost early in the postseason, and that was our last chance with Corbin Burns. He gets traded to Baltimore. Last year it was kind of like the coming out party of like, Churrio's the third best player by F-WAR in the second half, and he's hitting the crap out of the ball in the postseason. And, it's supposed to be sort of this like coming together of all these young guys. Joey Ortiz was great last year. Churrio, as I mentioned. Yelich wasn't there. Anyways, Frelick hit a homer in Game 3 of the Wild Card Series last year after hitting like 2 all season. It kind of felt like this is the year that we're going to have the magic. And then, Williams gives up that 3-run homer. And then you lost Hader the year before. You trade Williams in the offseason. The core identity of this Brewers team had been their pitching, their like untouchable bullpen, and now, your Cy Young winner's gone 2 years ago. Your all-star top of the line closer's gone. Your replacement for your all-star top of the line closer is now also gone. And it didn't feel like you got much of a return for Williams at the time. Caleb Durbin, we love you now. But at the time, it didn't feel like there was much coming in from the Williams transaction. Nestor was always kind of a funny fit. Never really seemed like that was going to be that sustainable. And he was a 1-year guy. So, I'm going off on this tangent, but it's concerning to see a team that has routinely struggled towards the end of the season and into the postseason start showing signs of struggle. There's some positive signs. Churrio started his, rehab assignment on Friday, so he should be back soon-ish, probably end of the month, towards the beginning of September. He should hopefully have some time to ramp up, get into form by the postseason. Mizorowski has been kind of bad his last couple starts. Like, I don't know if this is just like regression that was coming, if this is kind of the major leagues figuring him out a little bit, if it's just bad luck, if, he's tired. Here you go, sweetheart. But it's that looked for a time like it was going to be like, Brewers got another guy, he's going to be a stopper in the postseason. You don't want to see Peralta, Woodruff, and Mizorowski in the first 3 games of a series. But now it kind of looks like maybe Mizorowski is going to be a bullpen guy in the postseason. Like, there's a chance if he doesn't kind of get back to what you at least need to see from him, because his last couple starts have not been good at all. Like, his ERA has gone up like a 1.5 in his last 2 or 3 starts. There's a chance that you run, Quinn Priester or Jose Quintana as your number 3, and Mizorowski's kind of a guy you bring in for 2 innings as like a guy with crazy stuff, weapon type. It's 4-2 in the 7th inning, and we're gonna have Miz come out for 7 and 8 and get him to McGill for the 9th. and just hope he can blow guys away. Like that's kind of what it's looking like at this point. So there's just, and it feels again, it feels unfair because the Brewers have been so unbelievably good for so long. It kind of feels unfair not to give them the benefit of the doubt and start asking all these questions at this point. But I just have seen this movie before. It feels like the Euphoria meme where it's like, is this fucking play about us? Like that's kind of that's the point I'm getting to now, where it's like I don't want my hopes to keep getting up every year and then watch the same thing happen. Chourio coming back should be big. He's just like a steady force in the lineup. Lockridge hasn't been that great filling in for him, but even aside from like on-field production, just symbolically, that's your guy. You signed him. He's going to be here for a long time. That's your guy. You want him on the field. He can slot back into center field, and hopefully he keeps hitting the way he was hitting. Like he I don't know if he one dotted in July, but if he didn't, he was pretty damn close. Like he was one of the hottest guys in the league. The Brewers kind of kept up the momentum when he first went down, and now it kind of seems like um they need kind of like a rock in that lineup because you're not going to get 8 homers in the span of a couple weeks from Terang, maybe ever again. Blake Perkins was hot when he came off the IL. He's kind of slowed down a little bit. You know, it just feels like there's kind of some regression from the guys that you expected to regress, but then, you know, if those guys are going to regress, you need somebody else to come in and pick up the slack. And I think getting Chourio back is going to be big. Hopefully Mizorowski can kind of find himself again. That Giants series was just, I don't know, just wasn't great. And again, it's not the end of the world. Brewers still comfortably have the best record in the major leagues. As much as you hate to see injuries happen, especially to a guy like Zach Wheeler, the NL outside of the Brewers there's a lot of question marks on these other teams too. Like it's not fair to only kind of put these doubts on Milwaukee. Philly still has a deep rotation, but like that he's an ace. He's everything in the playoffs. He's got like a stunning resume in the playoffs. And Philly's kind of been the most consistent team in the NL outside of Milwaukee. The Dodgers just haven't felt like they've played good baseball yet. Obviously, they're still one of the best teams in the league, so if they figure it out, then, you know, fuck me, I guess. San Diego hasn't had, like, the guy in the way the Brewers have not really had the guy. They have more people who easily could be the guy. Like Tatis is always amazing in the playoffs. Machado's been around forever. Jackson Merrill hasn't really been what he was last year. But if he figures it out, then you know that's tough. Bogarts is kind of picking it up, but like as far as the top end of the NL outside of Milwaukee has looked so far, there's a lot of questions with them too. But for a team that had been so kind of untouchable for so long with the Brewers, it's a little concerning to kind of just see them be fallible. It was nice to see Adames come back, get a good reaction from the crowd, and hit a couple homers. You know, I'm happy for it. Willie was great for the Brewers, and I'm glad they didn't sign him to the contract that San Francisco did, but I'm happy for him. I hope he's great. I hope this kind of helps keep him going in the right direction this season. Yeah, I mean, that's really all there is to say. Tough week, but not the end of the world, especially with Chourio's return on the horizon. Joey Ortiz to the IL, didn't mention that. Obviously, his bat hasn't been what we wanted, but he's been playing good defense this year at short, and he's been in the lineup almost every day. So, you're gonna see some Durbin at short. It's gonna mix things up a little bit. You're gonna see more Monasterio, more Anthony Siegler. Not ideal, but it's the offense from Ortiz wasn't, we're not losing too much there. It's more so a matter of the steady presence that he provided defensively. So hopefully he can get healthy soon. But Churio coming back is big. Mizorowski can. I hope he figures it out. I hope he gets it back together and kind of locks in and is the guy that we were hoping he could be after his first 5 starts or whatever it was. Yeah, Arizona's not playing that great. They traded all their guys away at the deadline, so hopefully this is kind of a get right series. You've got them at home. Let's hope we have better things to talk about next week. Yeah, 3-homer day for Sal Frelick today. Sal Frelick for 3 homers. That's my prediction. See you guys next week.